How's it going, everyone? It is I, Anime Outlet, and this is part 2 of What If Deku had Sans powers. And now, before I start this What If off, I would like to ask all of you to put your What If suggestions down in the comments section below. And now, let's begin. Izuku would slowly roll out of his bed before looking down at his alarm clock. Yup, today was the day, his first day of high school and his first day at UA. He would begin a walk towards his closet, opening up the doors before grabbing his UA uniform that he had received in the mail. Putting it on, he would then grab his coat, putting it on over that. Walking down the hall after opening up his door, he would smell that breakfast had already been made. He would sit down next to a plate that was prepared for him by his mother, eating it as he would then bid his mother farewell, opening up their front door, and would then begin a walk towards the UA's campus. However, as Izuku was walking, a small white-haired child would end up bumping into him. Izuku would look down as both of their gazes would end up meeting. Izuku would as if have a message played right into his mind. The girl's eyes were pleading with him to help her, as Izuku wasn't sure what to do, completely still, not knowing if he should help her, just completely walk on by. However, a strange man would end up walking out of the alleyway before grabbing the young girl's shoulder. "Come on, Eerie, let's go. You shouldn't have run off like that," pulling her back towards the alleyway as she would then turn, looking back at Izuku, now pleading even more, as she would then begin walking with the man down the alleyway. Izuku would summon a bone in his hand as he would grab the man's shoulder. As the man would turn around, Izuku would then strike the man over the head with the bone, knocking him out. Izuku would then grab the girl before turning out of the alleyway, as two security guards would rush out to see Overhaul knocked out. Izuku would then hear them, "Overhaul, what happened?" However, there was no response, as the man was unconscious. Izuku would jump out of nowhere, summoning two Gaster Blasters, as they would then fire right at the two men, completely just obliterating them, as Izuku would then see even more people come out of nowhere. Izuku would begin to knock all of them out, as he would then ask the girl to follow him. He would go deep into this strange, mysterious white place, as a door would open up out of nowhere, as this door would end up being a just secret hideout into where Eerie was end up being kept, as that is the name Izuku had heard her being called. Izuku would look down to her and ask her what her name was. Eerie, she would say, as Izuku would nod his head. A lot of you guys say it's Eerie, and that's how they pronounce it in the anime. So I like calling it Eerie, but it's Eerie. I really couldn't care less, so I'm just going to be calling it Eerie. Sorry if you guys don't like the way I pronounce the name, as it's completely alright, as I think I'm pronouncing it completely wrong, as the anime says Eerie, like I just said. So Izuku would nod his head towards the girl as they would continue on walking deep into it. She would point out small landmarks, just saying different things about how she was being tortured and all of that. As more information would end up being just coming out, Izuku would get madder and madder. How could someone do this to such a small, innocent girl like her? As Izuku would continue on seeing new people, as he would continue on knocking them out. Finally, when he was done, Izuku would then lift up his phone out of his pocket before calling the police. They would just immediately come flying down, hearing about a case of a man in a fur coat, as this, of course, was Overhaul, after all. They had gotten a picture of him, and he was wearing a fur coat, of course. And so, with him being one of their number one targets, mostly Sir Night-Eye wanting to capture him, they would come flying. Sir Night-Eye would also be informed, coming right down to where Izuku said his location was. Izuku would walk out of the alleyway, as the girl would follow behind him. The police would then meet up Izuku, as Izuku would then explain what happened, how this girl had basically just looked at him, and how he knew she was in trouble, knocking out the man before going on a crazy spree of just knocking out people, and maybe killing a couple on the way too. The police would just say Izuku's in somewhat of trouble, but since he helped the police out a ton, now they were getting some bad publicity in the news for not capturing him already, they'll just let this event slide. Izuku would then see Sir Night-Eye come out as he would then walk towards him. Well, good job. I'm kind of confused how you were able to just beat this person so easily, and how we couldn't do it after months of searching. But oh well, as Izuku would then walk on by, realizing that he had completely forgotten about his first day at UA. He would immediately rush off as the girl would end up following him. Many of the police officers would try to stop her, however she was far too quick for them, as she would catch up with Izuku, who was standing outside of the gates at UA, marveling at how big they were. Opening up the gates, Izuku would continue on walking. There was no students in sight. It was quite strange, as Izuku would push open the doors as he would start to walk around the campus. Again, it was completely silent and no one was around, as all that could be heard was the two people's footsteps. Izuku would end up seeing a big door with Class 1A written on it. Izuku would open up the door as there stood a very homeless-looking man just looking at some papers, as the man would look towards Izuku before looking down at a watch. I suppose you're Izuku Midoriya. You're about 8 hours too late. Class ended quite a little bit ago. What? I'm that late? Izuku had spent so much time searching throughout the hallways and everything in Overhaul's hideout that he'd completely neglected the fact that he still had to go to school. So Izuku would then explain what he had done, as Aizawa would then tell him that they had heard about it, and if Izuku could please head down towards Nezu's office, as Izuku would nod his head. As Izuku would then approach the office, he would open the door before sitting down. Nezu would look towards Izuku before laughing. Well, at least you have a good excuse for missing the entire first day of school. But that doesn't mean you should go unpunished, of course. I heard what you did. But since you happened to save this girl, I guess I'll let this slide. You should consider yourself lucky getting off twice today. Anyway, so, do you know what this little girl's name is? It's Eerie, I think? The girl would nod her head as Nezu would look down towards her. So, do you know what we should do with her? As Izuku would shake his head, no. As Eerie would then hug Izuku's leg, as Nezu would then laugh. Well, I guess that settles it then. I guess she'll be living with you now. Izuku would nod his head as he would then take her home. Before Izuku was able to walk out of the room, Nezu would tell Izuku how he now has to make up some work, which he'll have to come in on the weekend. Also, he'll send adoption papers towards his house for his mother to sign. Izuku would nod his head as he would then go back to his house. When he would open the door, it was completely silent, much like the halls of UA, and it was also completely dark. As Izuku would flick on the lights, there stood his mother holding a ruler in her hand. So, I heard you missed your entire first day of school, young man. What could you have possibly done to miss an entire school day? You better have a good excuse. As Izuku would jump back, now on the defensive, saying that I was saving this little girl here. Her name's Eerie. All of a sudden, Inko would then become very nice, running towards the girl, just awing at how cute she was. Oh, I guess that's a good enough excuse. So, what's she doing here? Well, you're gonna adopt her, and now she's becoming my little sister, I guess. Inko would just look towards Izuku like, really? You just happened to bring this on me without even asking me first? Well, I guess I'll have to accept it. I really can't do that, just leave this little girl hanging. As Izuku would sort of awkwardly laugh before sneaking off, as Inko would just be having so much attention towards Eerie. Izuku sneaking off would then rush to his room, just wondering what the next couple of days are going to be like for his just school life and his hero career. Weeks would end up pass as Izuku would roll out of bed, as he would then run over to his closet, getting changed before rushing off towards the UA campus. As he would arrive, he would sit down, wondering what today was going to be like. He had heard today was his first hero class, and he was somewhat excited. The first time he was excited to do something for quite a long time. As Izuku would start to stretch in his seat, knowing that he's going to have to be loose to perform to his liking, as the entire class would just be sitting, just bouncing up and down in their seats, waiting to see who their hero teacher could be. Do you think it could be All Might? No, it can't possibly be All Might. He's far too famous to be a small-time hero teacher to us Class 1A kids. As some of the class would agree, while most of them would end up disagreeing. Come on, we're Class 1A, give us some credit. All of a sudden, they would hear stomping from down the hall. As the stomping would get closer and closer, and all of a sudden, the door would be slammed, sliding open, and there would reveal a glowing yellow figure. This figure, of course, would be All Might, the #1 hero, as many of the class would just look on in shock. Whoa, it is All Might! Many of them had said, yeah, it could possibly be All Might, but they didn't really believe it was true. They never thought such a busy person could somehow have extra time to be a teacher. Huh, class, quiet down, quiet down. We have a lot of work to begin today. Well, first off, remember the hero costumes you designed a couple of weeks ago during the first week of school? Well, the support course helped us out and designed them for you already. So, here's a bunch of suitcases. You should see a number name tag on your desk, and that number will be the number your suitcase just happens to be. As Izuku would get up, walking over to his suitcase, as he would then open it up. It was a very simple blue coat, as you would look over through the other parts of the hero costume. He had some basketball shorts under the coat, and under all of that would reveal some pink Air Jordan sandals, which was a suggestion from one of you guys in the comment section, so I just decided to make you happy and just say, yup, he has those pink sandals, I guess, for the pink Air Jordan sandals, just to make it a little extra comfy, I guess. So that would end up being Izuku's hero costume, basically mimicking Sans, as Izuku pretty much idolized him. It gave him a power, and also gave him a heck ton of confidence coming with it. So Izuku would sit back, closing his suitcase, as All Might would then tell them, alright, there should be a map in both of the locker rooms. Please put your hero costumes on and then head over to the city site A. The class would nod before rushing off towards the locker rooms. They all wanted to be and get there early so that they could start early and possibly have a chance to do some extra activities with the #1 hero, as they were quite excited. They've never seen such a high-ranking hero in person before. At least most of them haven't. So Izuku would rush off, putting on his hero costume. However, he would end up being the last one out there. As he would end up slowly walking out, the entire class would look annoyed at him, as they had he had caused them to wait for an extra couple of minutes. Izuku would just say, what? I was getting a drink of water. Why you guys look so mad? We're still gonna have time to finish the activity. It's not like we're not gonna see him all year. As some of the class would agree with him, while a heck ton of them were still angry that he caused them to shorten their time with the #1 hero. However, this really was not the case. They were just being stupid. So, as All Might would look over, just seeing how annoyed the class was, he decided to draw the attention towards him, so that Izuku wasn't just being the target of all that negative energy. Alright, class, so the first thing we're going to be doing is a Hero's First Villains test. I will be able to test your abilities based on what you do in this test. However, you don't have to have all that pressure on your backs, as this merely is just a test to see what your abilities now are. Doesn't matter if you're having a bad day today. So, let's begin. I've randomly chosen the teams already. So, the first team, Izuku Midoriya and Momo Yaoyorozu. The second team, Bakugo Katsuki versus Moneta, as the entire class would see that this was the team now, as Izuku would be told his team was the heroes while the other team was the villains. Izuku would walk off towards the building, as All Might would tell them they can't head in until he gives them the go-ahead to walk into the building. Both Izuku and Momo would nod, as she would then ask Izuku if he has a plan. Izuku would nod his head before slamming his fist down into his palm. "Yeah, I got the perfect idea. We walk up to the top of the building and touch the bomb to give us the win." Momo would look directly at Izuku, just giving him the look as if, "Are you serious? That's how you win. You go up to where they're hiding the bomb and you just touch it, the device. All you have to do is touch it. Of course, this is only a high school and it's a fake bomb or a fake device made out of paper mache, courtesy of the support course coming in clutch once again." So Izuku would just say, "Yeah, I suppose that's right. That's how we win. That's why it's the plan." As All Might would tell them they can head in, as Izuku would open the door, walking cautiously around each corner. He knew Bakugo far too well to know he wasn't going to try to do a jump scare to catch Izuku off guard before pummeling him down into the ground. After all the things Izuku had done to Bakugo throughout the years, basically just bonking him on the head with his bones, which caused Bakugo just to be knocked out each time, or just being dazed each time, which was basically just Izuku telling him to knock it off. As Izuku and Momo would end up making it to the 3rd floor, they would end up seeing sparks come out from around the corner, as all of a sudden a fiery person would come right out, exploding towards them, as they would look on directly towards Izuku, jumping right at them. However, Izuku would dodge before summoning a bone in his hand, bonking Bakugo right on top of the head. Bakugo would grab his head in pain before looking back at Izuku. Why the heck do you keep doing that?" "I don't know. It's quite fun." As Izuku would then walk around a corner before appearing right behind Bakugo again, bonking him on the head again. "How did you just get there?" "Oh, I took a shortcut, of course." As Bakugo would look on right towards Izuku before pivoting his arm, before trying to send an explosion right towards Izuku. However, this wouldn't work. "I'm right here, below you," as Bakugo would look down, before Izuku would then lift up his arm, bonking Bakugo on the head one more time. "That's it! You deserve this, Izuku," as Bakugo would then pull the pin on his grenade gauntlets, as All Might would yell at Bakugo how it was too dangerous. Izuku would end up grabbing Momo, saying that they need to take a shortcut before they would end up disappearing. As half of the 3rd floor would end just being gone, completely obliterated by Bakugo's attack, as All Might would start yelling at Bakugo through the intercoms how it was so dangerous, as many of the students just didn't know where Izuku and Momo had gone. However, all of a sudden, they would appear out of nowhere from around a corner, as Izuku and Momo would now be on the 5th floor. Mineta, who was guarding the device, would end up looking on towards Momo, just in a greed and disgusting state, before jumping right at her, as Izuku would lift up his bone that he was still holding in his hand, before slamming the bone right into Mineta's face, causing him to be sent flying, smashing him through the window, before falling down 5 stories, hitting the ground, as Momo would thank Izuku, before basically just saying, "Well, I guess he deserved it." I saw the intention in his eyes, as Izuku and Momo would then touch the device, as they would then walk back towards the place where the heroes and just the students and All Might were. All Might would congratulate them, as Momo would kind of just feel like she did nothing. She was useless in that fight and scenario, as this would lower some of her confidence, as Izuku would just pat her on the back. "Look, I'm sorry you didn't really get to do anything. I kind of just stepped up and blocked all of your opportunities. Sorry about that." Momo would nod her head, just saying, "It's okay, Izuku," as Izuku would see Bakugo rushing in, yelling where the heck Izuku was, as All Might would glare towards Bakugo before completely eating into him, saying how dangerous and a fool Bakugo was for doing something so stupid, as Bakugo would storm off, having been just He's suspended by a teacher right there. All Might was the number one hero after all, and he had the authority to just talk it over with Nezu, as he's sure Nezu would agree with him. As the day would end up passing, many of the students finishing their hero vs. villains test, as All Might would walk over towards Nezu's office, sitting down as Nezu would then look up at All Might. So, All Might, what do you wish to talk about? It's young Bakugo, sir. I fear he's drifting into a path of villainy. It's quite evident with the way he acts and his ego. Nezu would nod his head. Yes, I happened to see over the cameras what he had done towards Izuku and Momo. Quite a dangerous act, I would say. I also saw how you suspended him for a day of school, so he won't be coming back tomorrow. Hopefully he learns his lesson by then, but we might have to put him into some counseling to get his emotions in check. All Might would nod his head before walking off. Nezu had agreed with him like he had thought. And that's where I'm going to leave this What If off, everyone. I hope you all did enjoy part 2 of What If Deku had Sans powers. Hopefully part 3 will end up coming out tomorrow, part 4 on Tuesday, part 5 on Wednesday, part 6 on Thursday, a part 7 if this series continues all the way up until then, which it probably will, and maybe even a part 8. I'm not quite sure yet, but I thank you all for watching. Remember to put your what if suggestions down in the comments section below. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.